Hey guys, what's up? It is week 405, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let's hop. Oh, I should mention, before we get into the reviews, I went and saw Hellraiser and the Phantom Events. I just covered the Hellraiser 4K box set from Arrow. I love the Hellraiser films, in particular the first two. Grew up with Hellraiser, Pinhead, all that. Clive Barker was a huge kind of, staple in my childhood. So when the chance came to see Hellraiser in 4K on the big screen, I had to jump at it. Yeah, I really enjoyed watching it there. Watching this, a lot of the stuff you've seen the movie a million times, so you notice a lot of stuff. But a couple things that I noticed on the big screen is how good the early cinematography is from a first-time director, the pan-ups and stuff like that. Just the visual style in the first act in particular is really strong. And I also noticed, I don't know if I noticed this before, but I know that Butterball is always fingering his belly button in some sort of pleasure, because they're wounds, they finger the pain, the pleasure, mixers, of course, the Cenobites. But female Cenobite this time was fingering her neck hole at one point, and I was like, oh wow, that's great. She's got the raspy voice because her throat's all torn up, and I didn't notice that before. But yeah, just really great on the big screen. Excellent movie. Always very funny when you watch it because the weird confusion of where it's supposed to take place, made in Britain, and they went and redubbed some of the stuff, but some of the stuff still feels very much Britain, and some of the dialogue even feels very much Britain. Regardless, fucking masterpiece, independent, glorious movie from New World Pictures, of course. Let's hop into the reviews. So the first up is from 1984. This is from Visual Vengeance. That's Wild Eyes, kind of crazy, deluxe kind of wing. There they do a lot of SOV and kind of cult movies, and this is Furious from 1984. Now, this is a bizarre film. I'd heard about this before, seeing the cover art and all those kind of things like that. So it's kind of a cult staple. I think, for fans in line, this is definitely one of these things where you see like Miami Connection or even Dangerous Men or in The Instructor, these wild, batshit crazy martial arts movies, or movies made by, I don't want to say necessarily, well, when you get to Dangerous Men and stuff like that, it's more so like our American Samurai, where they just like don't necessarily know the American like details and stuff like that, so it's odd. And that's not really this, but it does have that flavor. It's definitely more in line with Miami Connection and The Instructor, where it's these kind of wackadoo plots that somehow are completely fucking incoherent nonsense, but they have really fun martial arts and stunts and wildness. So Furious stars Simon Ray and Philip Ray, or Rhee, R-H-E-E. They're Korean martial artists. I knew them originally growing up watching the best of the best films. They were in the first two, and then I think it's Simon is in 3 and 4 as well. But they're just great martial artists, and this was their first starring role. They really didn't even get paid to make this movie. Super low budget. I believe the film elements have been lost, so it's been like remastered on an SD tape. Best kind of ability they could do. And there's some ghosting and things like that. To try to explain the plot of this movie, it'd be pretty hard. So in the very beginning, we have these kind of goons chasing this woman, and they're after something, and she's killed, and they take it, and it's kind of brought to like this main villain in one of the Rhee brothers, and all the henchmen are completely weird and dressed crazy. One's kind of dressed in like a Jeremiah Johnson Mountain Man kind of deal. But what happens is the brother of the girl in the beginning, who's Simon Rhee, gets word and wants to go after it, go after the bad guys and figure out what happened and whatnot. So it just leads to a bunch of ridiculous fight scenes, one of which is on a mountain, which is great because they use, like helicopter footage and stuff where they're pulling out, and I thought that was really well done with how they did that. Very ambitious for this kind of low-budget picture. When he's working the heavy bag, I think that's pretty tremendous. The fight scenes never seem to stop, but it also has an element of complete batshit, like disconnected, disjointed shit, so you're just like, I don't know the story, I give up on the story, I don't know a lot of these characters, I just completely was lost and just gave up on it and trying to figure out exactly where the story was going. It's not a point A to point B kind of storyline here, so best is just to throw your arms up and say fuck it and watch some fun martial arts stuff, some crazy stunts, some amateur but well done things. The one thing that I have to point out is it feels a lot like the Taiwanese, or it's not Indonesian, but like if you watch like a Thailand or Taiwanese like fantasy kind of movie, or even in the Taiwan movies that are made, Taiwan movies made by Hong Kong, there's always a weird element of comedy and weirdness and craziness. So, like, it has that element, too. There's at one point where, like, somebody is turned into a pig, the bad guy, and he's, like, talking. He's like, make sure. And you're just like, this is not doing this. This is fucking bonkers. Somebody's launching chickens out of their hands and shit. It's just a weird, insane, nonsensical thing. Everything is ADR, so that adds like a weird comedic element to it. When people are thrown over, they're like, ugh! It's just so over the top and ridiculous. But it's not intentionally made like that. It's just kind of like, I guess you'd say, like a happy secret, a happy accident, if you will. As far as the special features are concerned, you have new director approved SD master from original tape element. So maybe this was originally shot on tape. Archival commentary with co-director Tim Everitt. Commentary with Justin t.o.L of the Important Cinema Club and Peter Koblinski of the Toronto International Film Festival. I enjoyed these guys. Justin t.o.L was all over the Geez, I just watched that movie last week. Saturn's Core put it out. He was all over the Flesh Freaks release and stuff, and he was really enthusiastic. He's also incredibly enthusiastic on this release. High Kicking in Hollywood, the Tom Sartori interview, the Kung Fu Kid Tim Everitt interview, North American no-budget martial arts expert cinema primer video essay by Justin t.o.L. The guy's doing the commentary along with his friend. Now, he just breaks down all these weird kind of like vanity projects, independent projects, martial arts projects, and talks about all of them up into the modern era. Very informative, very good, very enthusiastic as well. Ree Brothers career overview, Justin t.o.L video essay. That's like 10 minutes, goes over their career and what they've been doing and what they work in. It's a lot, guys, and it's very impressive. Archival Scarecrow video podcast with Tim Everitt, 2013. Furious new wave band behind the scenes Super 8 footage, Scorched, Earth Policy, full 6-song EP, Cinema Face live in concert, Tom Sartori 1980s music video reel, Tom Sartori Super 8 short film reels, original trailer, Visual Vengeance trailer, stick your own VHS sticker set, reversible sleeve featuring original VHS art, folded mini poster reproduction of original Furious 1G 2-sided insert with alternative art, optional English subtitles. So, yeah, this movie is not recommended for everybody, but if it sounds like it's something up your alley that is complete insanity, complete bonkers, then Furious may be for you. Okay, the next one up is from Deaf Crocodile, and this is Tamala 2010, a punk cat in space. Oh boy, this is a fucking one of the weirdest animated movies I've ever seen in my life. It takes place in some sort of hellscape, post-apocalyptic world, or galaxy or universe, whichever way you want to put it. So the main character is Tamala, and she's like this adorable little Hello Kitty-style cat, and she ends up going to this kind of rundown planet where it's dangerous, and she immediately meets a friend of hers who is like, befriends this guy that she refuses to call him. She keeps calling him the wrong name, and he keeps correcting her, and he kind of warns her about how dangerous this place is. It seems that dogs in this world, there's a whole bunch of cats, of course, and dogs in this world just kind of kill outright. There's political turmoil. There is a backdrop of some giant major kind of facility, like a corporation that is just like spewing this stuff, and it has like our main character, like like her on the cover, the boxer of all the shit like that. At least you think. So you're like, where's this going? What is happening? And then about the halfway point, something really crazy happens. We're like, where do we go from here? And we kind of had this kind of, I don't know if it's a shift in time, fast forward in time, where this character comes in, and he seems to be some sort of highly intelligent character, and he has all this information. He drops like the biggest exposition dump into what the fuck is going on, but to that point you're just like, where are we going, what is happening? And the exposition dump kind of explains where this world, how this world got here, who the characters are, and who he is. It is weird. It is insane. It is obviously making some statements about capitalism and stuff like that. The planet's pretty cool. It's dark. The animation I'm okay with. It's not my favorite style of animation. To think this took place this was made in 2002 is a little impressive. I would have never guessed that. It seems a little newer. I guess when I say impressive, I don't want to be like that. No, nobody could do this in 2002. I just thought it was more in the line with a newer animated movie, kind of like more Flash animated presented and stuff like that, and it's probably less that. It's directed by like a collective, t.o.L, which I don't really know that much about. There's a couple more shorts with this character Tamala going on. This movie is a weird mixture of a bunch of genres and elements that you really never think are going to come together. I'm not necessarily sure how much I love it or how much I even like it, but I do kind of have some appreciation for it, and I think it's interesting. What really helped me on this one was listening to the commentary with Sam Deegan. She started breaking this down and talking about all these things and getting into anime and Sailor Moon and Hello Kitty, and I was just like, oh wow, this is a lot more like has so much more like deepness to it than I actually thought, and the context adds a lot to it. That's why it's always best to have a little bit of context on a movie that you're not super familiar with or anything like that. If you're interested, you check it out, and then sometimes you're completely left baffled, and you can come to your own determination sometimes, but a lot of times it's best to have somebody who's an expert at the subject kind of break everything down in a commentary like this. So it's a very good commentary. As far as the other special features, there's 2 original Tamala shorts, Tamala on Parade 2007 and Tamala's Wild Party. One is 24 minutes, one is 16 minutes, both in Japanese with subtitles. New interview with Tamala 2010 co-director, co-creator, K of t.o.L, moderated by Dennis Bartok for Deaf Crocodile. Japanese simultaneously English translation by Christian Storms. New commentary track by Sam Deacon, of course. Doesn't She Ever Die? The Punkification of Late Capitalism. New visual essay by journalist and physical media expert Ryan Burnell. Disconnected, and film professor Dr. Will Dotson. Teaser for the new Tamala film coming out. So we could finally see how this saga is going to end. It is weird. As you can see, there's a Colonel Sanders on the back there with an axe in his head and a plate full of chicken. Yeah. So it's that kind of weird-ass movie. But, yeah, I think it's worth a look if you like it. I do like the character Tamala because she'd, like, smoking a cigarette, and she'd be like, fuck, yeah, this... It's just, like, cuss and say weird shit, but also in, like, the cutest, most childish way. It's like a child with a potty mouth, but it's a weird thing because a lot of the characters sexualize her. Like, the dog character is really dark, really weird. But, yeah, that is Tamala 2010, a punk cat in space. Okay, next one here is from 88 Films, and this is Facets of Love. And this is one that there's not all that much about here. The director did Beauty of Beauties, which 88 Films put out, and Golden Lotus, if I'm not mistaken, which I covered a while back. So this one, Facets of Love, this is weird. It's an anthology, but it's like a kind of a tricky anthology. When you start watching it, you're like, okay, we're going to follow this. No, we have like one main storyline here, and then they'll just stop and they'll have a character tell a story that lasts 30 minutes of the movie. So it also adds context to the story that's going on here too, but then continues the story. It's not a traditional broken up cleanly anthology, but the segments are kind of divided well enough. So this is a costume drama, like I said. It takes place in a brothel, so it's not your typical Shaw Brothers kind of classic kung fu or even modern, kind of contemporary story with a lot of shooting or crazy exploitation in the violence kind of way. It's kind of not bad. It's definitely exploitation in the sexual, way. The main kind of storyline here follows this poor girl who is sold into prostitution against her will. She's tortured, she's beaten. We have a lot of that going on. And our main character, one of our main characters, is the owner of this brothel, this female woman, and her husband, who's also like her partner or whatever. I think they're married. Who's also a tremendous creep. But you really feel sorry for this main kind of young girl who's sold into the brothel and forced into prostitution. You almost hoping for like Confessions of a Chinese courtesan kind of storyline where she's just going to kill everybody, or her vengeance. You want revenge, which her vengeance isn't necessarily sold to a brothel, but Confessions of a Chinese Courtesan is that storyline, right? Where you have the prostitute sold in and they get revenge on all their clients. Thriller, A Cruel Picture, kind of same way. But so she's sold in here, and we see her dealings with it and everything like that, trying to get the main guard to help her. But a lot of it is kind of these gossipy stories told. Like, have these clients in there, and they'll stop and they'll be like, well, that guy is this, and it goes back, and we have this crazy story basically about the emperor coming into the brothel and sleeping around with all these different women and just having immense amounts of sex. And there's this big ban on anybody of royalty going into the brothel because of this, because the emperor ends up with syphilis, of course, which is common for a lot of people in power to get, especially when they wanted to practice in a lot of sex and those kind of things. So what happens is our emperor here ends up with syphilis, but the way they have it, like, he goes into like this room, and it's almost like a gag out of like an 80s sex comedy, where it's like you go in and it's dark and you don't know who it is. You have to pay for a candle, and then he lights it up, and it's just like this syphilitic woman. He's like, with no teeth, and is old, and you're just like, this is really gross and in poor taste. But hey, it's exploitation. That's what you're looking for in Facets of Love. And the final story involves one of the actual government kind of officials coming into the place of business, and he kind of, I like this one a little bit more because our government, not official guy, starts to like kind of push his weight around, and he actually starts to eye like the owner of the brothel, who's an older woman, and I'm like, yeah, finally you gotta have to do some work, because she's just a despicable character character, although a great performance from her. Just a not likable character, but it ends in some violent shooting and everything. So Facets of Love is a mixed bag. It's a little bit different than a lot of the other, Shaw Brothers films. And I think Beauty of Beauties had, if it's the one I'm thinking of, I think there was a fair amount of sex and stuff and cheating in there. So it's in line with that. There's no real special features on here, which is kind of a bummer. Jackie Chan has a small role in here. It's not, it's before I think he had his nose job. There's definitely some nose work done on Jackie Chan later on. Looks completely different, but he's fairly young in here, 99 minutes. And we do have one, I think, interview on here, if I'm not mistaken. With brand new artwork. We do have an interview on here. I don't know if it's listed on here, but it's like an interview. It's not listed, but an interview with, I think, a stunt coordinator or something along those lines. But this is Facets of Love from 88 film. All right, next up is from Fun City Editions, and this is Racing with the Moon, directed by Richard Benjamin, who is more famous, I think, from being an actor, but he had a handful of movies he directed too. I'm mostly familiar with My Stepmother as an Alien because that's just the kind of, stuff I watch. Little Nikita. He also pops up in, what is the one from 1980? He's in the TV remake of Burn Witch Burn, but Richard Benjamin's in a bunch of movies. Popular actor, I said, pretty good director. Kind of an underrated director. I like his approach if you have interviews with him and everything. So this is Racing with the Moon. He directed this in 84, and it stars Sean Penn and Nicolas Cage. Two early performances by the guys. They're really good in it. They're really strong in it. You can tell they have immense amount of talent, and I think this is the only movie I can think of where Sean Penn and Nicolas Cage have that kind of, a role, sharing a role together, which is nice. Also, you'll see appearances by John Carlin from Daughters of Darkness and Dark Shadows as the father of, Sean Penn. Really like him in this. He's like a gravedigger, just good in here. Really good kind of father figure in here. We also have Ruth Alda. I know her full name is not Ruth, but I just call her Ruth Alda, who pops up in so many movies lately that I have. She's in Vigilante from last week. She's in Primeval. She's in Girls Night Out. Just good actress. She plays Sean Penn's mother. Carol Kane is in here as a prostitute. Good performance. And Crispin Glover you'll spot. Scott McGinnis, who is in Joysticks, if I'm not mistaken. So it's got a really great cast in here. Who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting like one of the biggest cast members in the movie. I always do that. You'll be presented. Elizabeth McGovern, she's in here as well. Yeah. Sometimes I forget a lot of the lead females in these movies because they don't have like a career in a lot of movies that I follow. It's not like genre films or anything like that, and I just don't want to miss them out because not mention them because the performances are all really strong in this one. So it's 1943. It's right before the draft for these guys. It's a small California town. It takes place in the winter, January, February kind of deal. There was a lot of talking where they're like, "Oh, it's really cold for February in here" and everything like that. Sean Penn's more of the main focus character. He's got a little bit more, I guess you'd say like he's the more moral compass of the two. Well, Nicolas Cage is kind of like just a little bit more crazy and just like reckless. They work in a bowling alley. And, there's a lot of goofy scenes where they're just kind of screwing around and their boss is giving them a hard time, but in like kind of a loving, kind of fun way. So it's like just got a really good small town energy about it. It's got a great look about it. You like mountain, small town. It's just like hilly, small town. Just really great looking movie. Great score. Like I said, wonderful acting, slice of life movie. It gets dramatic and a little bit dark at certain points. I wouldn't say like super dark, but, a lot of these movies that involve like teenagers do focus on like abortion and things like that. If you look at Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Last American Virgin, a lot of these movies have those kind of elements, and I always think it kind of grounds them into a reality. This one is firmly kind of placed in a reality. There's good dialogue, like I said, good interactions. There's a little train thing that happens in here that I like, and it comes back at the end. Overall, Racing with the Moon is just a really, really good drama with really well done acting from a bunch of early performances by people that would go on to do greater things, but this is still an underappreciated performance from everybody involved. And I was never, like, I'm not the biggest Sean Penn fan, and it's not like I think he's a bad actor or he does bad jobs. I just was always more in the, gravitated towards Chris Penn because the movies Chris Penn did are just more in my wheelhouse. Reservoir Dogs and, of course, True Romance and Best of the Best 1 and 2. So it's like, I'm not saying he's better, but like At Close Range was always a performance by Sean Penn. that I thought was amazing, as well as Chris Penn and Christopher Walken. That's one of my favorite movies from the 80s that's not like in the horror genre. I just love that movie to death, and I think the acting's amazing and the soundtrack, and this is not too far off from that. And I just think that Sean Penn was really, really electric in these kind of roles back then. And he just kind of drifted away from a lot of the stuff that I do watch. And I've always liked him when I see him. It's just he does a lot of stuff that I don't typically watch in the last 10 years or so, while Nicolas Cage is in plenty that I watch, because Nicolas Cage has kind of embraced the genre films and just done a lot of wacky, crazy stuff. But it's good seeing these two work. They have good chemistry together. It's a great world that they paint, and there's like good comedy beats and everything, but it's a drama first. I really enjoyed this. Well done, well directed, professionally done. There's a lot of good moments. Michael Madsen's also in here. I got to mention that because he's got a good kind of a little scene in there that he shares with Sean Penn, and it just kind of bounces you back to reality when you kind of get too lighthearted in it. But yeah, this is a really good film. I would highly recommend Racing with the Moon. Yeah, check it out, Richard Benjamin. As far as the special features, commentary by Benjamin, that's an archival one. Commentary by Bill Ackerman and Myra E. Gates. And the making of Racing with the Moon is broken up in 3 parts. And one talks more about the acting, and then one's more about Richard Benjamin talking and stuff like that. But highly recommend it. Check it out, Racing with the Moon. Okay, we're diving into the second part of this box set here, The Houses of Doom from Cauldron Films, and we're going to do from 1989. These are 4 movies originally made for TV, 2 by Fulci, 2 by Lenzi, deemed too violent to air, so they just kind of got buried a little bit, but now they've been released and stuff and back then, and now they're kind of getting a nice Blu-ray release. Only 2 of them ever got stateside DVDs, that's Sweet House of Horrors and House of Clocks, but now we have all 4 of them together. We're going to hop into the second Fulci film of the box set, The Sweet House of Horrors. That is right. Of course, directed by the maestro himself, Lucio Fulci, and this one was a lot of fun. Now, this is kind of a ghost story, and Fulci doesn't do too many ghost stories, but he did a couple. There's always ghost elements, and House by the Cemetery has its ghost elements, and House of Clocks is not a haunting, but it sure fucking feels a lot like it. Soderman's Ghost maybe has that haunting element, everything like that. But this one here, boy, oh boy, here let's start in the very beginning. We have this brutal murder, this couple's coming home, and beautiful house and everything like that, mansion, and there's a burglar in there in typical burglar fashion. He's got the mask and everything, and what happens is they try to stop him when he hears them, and he beats them brutally to death. And gory detail, it's drug out. Love the score here. The score plays wonderful with the killings and everything. It gets really nasty, kind of thrives in the murders, as Fulci was known to do. So after that, we see the sister of the murder victim, of the sister of the mom, come move into this house with her husband, and they have to take care of the 2 kids here. And this kind of brings the element, like it does remind me of House by the Cemetery with the 2 kids running around and the hauntings and stuff like that. And it does have that kind of energy going on. Pretty soon the little kids start to notice some like kind of wisp, and it turns out to be their parents kind of saying, we can't let them go. We need to help them from beyond the grave. The parents don't like this, and every time they try to leave the house or sell the house, something crazy happens, which brings in probably the funniest bits of the movie. There's definitely a huge like comedy piece to this side to this movie. Now, Fulci could be funny in his films for sure, but I think people don't associate comedy necessarily because they've seen so many of the nasty genre films, even though there's bits of comedy in there. They associate more Fulci with violence and cruelty and drama than they do comedy. But this one, I see a lot of comedy in Sweet House of Horrors. And this kind of brings in, they have a realtor come in, and I'm going to spoil this, so if you guys have not seen Sweet House of Horrors, I recommend it. I'll recommend any Fulci though, so be warned. And the realtor is your classic Italian fat character actor. He's almost every Italian horror movie I've ever watched, when they're like, we need a fat guy, it's this guy who comes in. He's in 1980 Trauma, where he has that great scene where he jumps in the swimming pool. He's in Strip Nude for Your Killer, where he has relations with inflatable sex doll. So it's all these kind of things. This guy, of course, he's the realtor, and he comes in, he's looking around the house, he's like, we might be able to sell this. And of course the ghosts kind of injure him, and he gets hurt, and it adds comedy, especially when the little kids are giggling, calling him sausage, and you're just like, I'm an idiot. I mean, obviously Fulci thought it was funny, but I also found it funny. It's just like, hey, fat guy fell down, ha ha ha. Whatever, I'm a Three Stooges guy too, so it is what it is, right? Just people getting hurt makes me laugh in movies as long as it's not serious. But so as it goes on, more shit starts to happen, creepy stuff, haunting stuff, somebody is killed. We find out who the killer originally was. Has a pretty decent cast in here. Besides the heavyset gentleman I mentioned before, we have a couple Fulci alumni. Geez, I can't think of the actress's name, but she is Eliza in The Beyond, the blind woman. She's in here, which is great to see. The guy who snorts all the coke in Demons, this show like the dead. He's also in Demons too. He pops up in here. It's nice seeing him pop up in a Fulci movie. So used to seeing him in the Lamberto Bava catalog. But yeah, there's just a couple other faces in here. There's a great character that they bring in to try to exorcise the house, which brings in one of the most memorable lines. Anybody who listens to Hello, This is the Doom Show will know it. Everybody out of the way of the bulldozer, of course. But it's just fun, haunting thing with some gory set pieces. But it gets creepy at the end. There's a part where they kind of like, you get a glimpse into the afterworld just by audio stuff. But overall, I really enjoyed Sweet House of Horrors. Looks great, sounds great. I'm enjoying this box set immensely. I love Italian horror movies. I don't know if it's my favorite. Per film, it's probably my favorite if you're to break it up over America. But America just has such an abundance. And so I have to put America first, but Italy is very close. It's so hard for me to pick America over Italy. They're tied. They're tied. I can't do it. And then probably third is probably Hong Kong or Japan or something like that. But so as far as the special features, Fulci House of Horrors interview with set designer Massimo Antelio Gileg, and he talks basically. It's kind of interesting. He talks about originally Fulci didn't want him to be for City of the Living Dead. That's his first film he worked on. Fulci said he didn't want him. He got forced with him, and he could not stand the guy because they had kind of and these special features in this box set so much, they're kind of painting Fulci as a very jealous, like very flirtatious old man that falls in love with like young beautiful women, and they all like get away from him and flock towards somebody else, and Fulci gets madly jealous. So that's kind of what we had here. He talks about eventually getting to work on Sweet House of Horrors, and the same fucking thing happened. Then we have Sweet Muse of Horrors interview with actress Cynthia Morelli. And she talks about working with Fulci and The Beyond and this one and stuff like that, her early career, all that good stuff. And editing for the Masters, interview with Alberto Marini, and that's pretty good too. He basically talks a lot about, same kind of story, meeting Fulci working for commercials first before Fulci moved on and used him for movies, and him kind of screwing with him at one point when he passed on some jobs that Fulci wanted him to do to his brother, and whatever. Fulci does not seem very nice to this guy. He referred to him as, quote, retard, unquote. But then we have time with Fulci, interview with FX artist Elio Terbili, archival interviews, all ported over from the Sweet House of Horrors DVD from Media Blasters, audio commentary by Eugenio Ercolani and Troy Howarth, which I really don't remember seeing these on here. When I went to, I literally went down all the special features, and I'm not sure if I missed those, because I would have 100% listened to that commentary and the time with Fulci. I was going down the special feature. I must have missed that. They must have been on the bottom. They must have had the features first, the new ones, and then the archival, and then some more new ones below. So I kind of shot myself in the foot with this. I kind of fucked up. I apologize. I definitely would have listened to those commentaries in another special feature. But Sweet House of Horrors, highly recommended. A lot of fun. Fulci lives at Cauldron Films. Next up is one that is near and dear to my heart. This is Jeremy Saulnier's directorial debut from 2007. Magnet Blu-ray here. This is Murder Party. This one I don't think I've covered on my channel before. Jeremy Saulnier would go on to do Blue Ruin, Green Room, Hold the Dark, and Rebel Ridge, which I still need to watch. But as far as I'm concerned, this is probably my personal favorite. I'm not saying it's the best. The best and favorite are different things to me. So super happy to see that this is a Vinegar Syndrome partner label now, Magnet, and this has been put out on Blu-ray. Yeah, I know it was only recorded in SD, made in SD, but hey, it is what it is. It is an upgrade to me. So Jeremy Saulnier, his special features on the first Murder Party, watching them, it kind of like made me want to make movies even more than I did when I was young. I was probably 20 when this movie came out, and I saw it. And then, the first time I watched it, I was like, it's not funny and it's not scary. And then I just went back to it, and I was like, this is like pretty close after it was in my head, and I fell in love with it. I thought it was the funniest, quirkiest thing ever. I thought that they painted the characters really well. But let me get into the plot of Murder Party. Murder Party basically follows the story of kind of a lonely meter guy, police meter guy, parking ticket cop guy on Halloween. he finds a murder party invitation that says, come to this murder party, come alone. It's in a bad part of town. He ends up going there, and what he finds is a group of 5 artists who are completely weird, bizarre characters, all fighting over a grant. And there's this kind of rich, eccentric asshole who has access to grant money named Alexander. He's not rich, but he has access to grant money. He's a complete prick, shows up with a drug dealer named Psycho and a dog named Hellhammer. And he wants them to commit this murder, these artists, basically. And whatever, and make an art statement to kind of push their art forward and be recognized so they can get access to this grant money. And it's kind of in the line with something like, Art School Confidential, which I think was made around the same time, maybe even after, or Ghost World, where it's kind of pointing out like the ridiculous nature of the art scene of independent, like, artists, and the weird, like, pretentiousness and all this kind of shit like that. Jeremy Saulnier, these are all friends with his that he had made these short movies with. There's like obviously some sort of camaraderie with them and connection with them. The standout in the film is Macon Blair, of course, who would go on to act in a slew of tons of other movies and direct his own movies. Nothing Feels Right in This World and the new Toxic Avenger coming out. So he became a pretty good director himself. Great performance in this. I love all the performances in here, although some are not as good as the other ones, but I think the characters are painted really well. And essentially it's almost a one location kind of film for the most part. Generally it all takes place in this warehouse. And at first you kind of start to see like who these characters are and their outfits by their costumes and their interactions and stuff, and it starts to get really worse and bad, and you realize they're a bunch of bumbling idiots and they're arguing, infighting, and they have all these secrets underneath them. And there's a great scene where they all get this truth serum. I almost said serum truth. This truth serum, and they start kind of making these confessions and everything, and it never stops being absolutely hilarious too. And all these kind of little things about them and their relationships with each other play into the end when the shit hits the fan. It's just, it's very effective. And while I was watching this, I must admit, I love this movie for years. I was watching it and I was like, maybe it doesn't hold up as much as I remember. I don't think I could still give this 5 out of 5 in Letterboxd. And when those emotional hits hit at the end with all the characters and everything like that, and the music hits in and a bunch of people are dying, and I was like, no, I still love this just as much as I ever did. I understand, warts and all on movies. Most of your favorite movies that you love aren't perfect. If people are voting on, here's what it is. I know this is so fucking stupid to say, and the idea that says there's objectivity and subjectivity is not a real. It's just like counterproductive. It's not a thing. But to me, I will say objectively, some things are better. You know what I mean? Like if somebody says the cinematography is objectively good and shining, I'd be like, yeah, I can get down on that. But I guess the term objectivity, if you're talking about film critique or film in general, is kind of it's a term that is widely accepted. Good cinematography in The Shining, right? Let's just say that. So, although there is some subjectivity in that, maybe somebody just doesn't like that for a horror movie or thinks it's boring or whatever. It doesn't matter. There's a little bit of differences and stuff. That's where taste comes in. But, and honesty, there's almost every movie that I ever loved, I could probably point out its flaws. This movie does have budgetary constraints. It does look a little flat in the lighting and stuff like that. But it doesn't bother me enough to ever take away from it. It's just a product of its time, and I love it warts and all. I love the performances, I love the special effects, and I love the characters, and I love what happens to the characters. I love the build-up. I love the explosion of everything. I've always been a big fan of building up your characters and then have this amazing scene where it all blows up and a bunch of things crazy happen and you're completely invested. It's very intense. There's great dialogue in here. One time I wrote to Santa Claus and asked him not to be Jewish. Shouldn't we get on with the murder? I was just thinking of cutting off his dick and setting him on fire. The character of Bill is an underrated one, I think, in this movie. He is actually tremendously scary, and the true artist of the bunch, underlining anger and madness, just growing and brewing until he completely fucking snaps. There's just a great scene with Macon Blair, special effects wise, and they call it the wolf melt in there. And I suggest you guys watch the old special features, the bloopers and all that kind of stuff when they're arguing about the food. Macon Blair's bloopers on this were fucking hilarious. Pickle soup. Well, they don't make pickle soup. I know, we'll have to get the ingredients. Just really brilliant, stupid shit that makes me laugh every time. Reminds me a lot of like the Superbad kind of bloopers where they're, I'm sorry, my porn is not a Spike Lee joint. Shit like that just is like too funny not to share, but not appropriate for the movie, if you will. I just love this movie to death. It's very funny. All the characters have their good kind of their their character resolutions and everything. Murder Party is a fantastic low budget masterpiece for its time. I really do think it is. I know some people probably went back in time and they were like, well, I saw Blue Ruin or I saw Green Room and I went back and watched a Murder Party and what the fuck, it's not as good as those movies. And technically, no, it's not as good as Blue Ruin or Green Room. And I was hard on Green Room the first time I seen him, and I was wrong. I was completely fucking wrong on Green Room. It's great. It's a great fucking movie. And I guess I don't know. It's funny about Jeremy Saulnier movies. I was wrong the first time I watched Murder Party, and I was only 20, and I came back like a week later. I was like, I love this stuff. Great. And I was wrong about fucking Green Room. And I liked Hold the Dark just fine, and I liked Blue Ruin. I loved Blue Ruin the first time I just saw it. So I think that this is a director. I think his movies get better the more times you watch them. Hey, Zyko, shoot Paul in the face. I mean, this movie is one that I just could quote all fucking day. There's a scene at the end that just like shows you how like bullshit all the artists are and pretentiousness, and the art scene is so fuck this scene. Everybody dies. I love this fucking movie, Murder Party. If you guys cannot tell, I love, critiques on something that somebody is from, just kind of like making statements on a world you're from and just showing truth in it and being funny about it. Because I'm a person that, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, will joke about anything. And especially when it's happened to me, the stuff I've lived through that's been really horrible, I make jokes of it. I'm probably one of those people that can never be serious, which is probably not good all the time. I'm not always like that, but there's I'd say about 75% of chance, there's a 100% chance I'm never going to be serious. But as far as the special features on here, we have new video interview with the writer-director Jeremy Saulnier, which is also nice to hear him kind of reflect and talk back on the movie about stuff like that, and I enjoyed seeing that. And then there's a new audio commentary by film critic Simon Abrams, which is good. He also is a big fan of the film. And then we audio commentary with writer-director Jeremy Saulnier, actors Chris Sharp and Macon Blair. This is archival stuff, Extreme Truth, Making a Murder Party, archival, what is this? Valedictation in Black, Levy's art installation video. Oh, that's the Lexi's. Is it Lexi? I could have swore her name was Lexi, not Levy, but it's put Levy on here, but I'm pretty sure it's fucking Lexi. I think this is a misspelling on here. Unless it's Levy's art installation at the end of the possible thing. But I think there's a clip where Lexi shows like her art film. He's like, it's so good. Very funny. Outtakes and bloopers booklet with new writing by film critic Kim Newman, which was nice to see. Kim Newman showing some love for this movie, which is really cool. Because honestly, when somebody smarter than you decides to put forth an effort and time on a movie like Murder Party that you love, it kind of just shows, man, maybe I was not so far off base with loving this one as much as I did. All right, there's going to be only one camera angle on here because I kind of screwed up, forgot to talk about it. So this 1993 Hong Kong film starring Danny Lee and Anthony Wong, those names should be very familiar with you. Anybody familiar with Cat 3 Hong Kong films, this is Love to Kill. This is a really good one. A lot of people don't talk about it. It's listed as like a thriller comedy. There's definitely some fucking horror aspects in this one. Love to Kill I would consider horror enough to watch as a horror film. Anthony Wong is the master at playing fucking creeps. He's amazing at it, and Untold Story, Ebola Syndrome, Hard Boiled. He's fucking awesome at it. He's also good at playing people that snap. If you see like Taxi Hunter. Danny Lee, of course, legendary actor / director, and here playing a cop, which he always played a cop. He plays a really kind of lazy, dumb cop. All the cops in these Hong Kong movies are always portrayed really stupid or lazy or just dumb. Even if they are the heroics of the movie, everybody's kind of just a jackass in these movies here. So basically what we have here is Anthony Wong is a miserably cruel, awful, abusive husband who has dark sexual fantasies where he puts his wife in and tortures her. In the very beginning, he's having sex with her and he's like rough with her, and he brings in a bottle and it gets real nasty, and it's a nasty rape scene in the film. And he ends up carrying her outside and beating her in the rain, and off-duty cop pulls over and Danny Lee and beats the shit out of Wong. They go to the police station. It causes a huge fuck up and everything like that, but Danny Lee, although he's dating, I think it's Julia Lee in this film, he starts to have a thing for this woman and wants to protect her and her child. That obviously is not going to sit well with Anthony Wong, and they basically are at each other's throats and playing like a lot of threatening. It's always so funny in the Hong Kong movies. Everybody's always worried about getting fucking arrested. It's like, I'll sue you. You'll be arrested. You'll be arrested. You'll be arrested. It's so different from the American movies. There's like, yeah, Stallone, sue me for what? Or like just people blowing people away in the movies. But in Hong Kong, they're always worried about the court systems and stuff. And half the fucking Cat 3 movies end up in a courtroom battle scene. Like Daughters of Darkness, Brother of Darkness. A lot of those movies are always like, well, half this movie's going to be a courtroom drama now. You're like, what? But they're always concerned about the court stuff. But what happens is you start to see like flashbacks in Wong's life as a child, obviously suffering from abuse from his father and what happened to his mother, which plays into a lot of that stuff too. You see that in a lot of these movies like Red to Kill, where it's obviously some sort of damage from a childhood kind of trauma that our main killer has. So it's similar to a lot of the ones that we've seen. It has like some other elements that are a little bit different in here. I hope the actress's name is Julia Lee, but she is kind of infamous for being in a lot of these Hong Kong movies where she's just beaten and raped, and it seems like she always wanted to push the envelope further. She's in Untold Story. She's the waitress who gets raped on the table. She's in this one, and she suffers a similar fate in a really nasty rape scene. She also went on to make a trilogy of Lust, which is kind of these crazy extreme Hong Kong movies. Part 2 is the more infamous of the bunch, but she's in here as well. But of course it's going to end where our wife has to have the final showdown with Anthony Wong. Some heads roll, literally, and there's some pretty nasty violence. It's got that great blue look at the very end that Hong Kong movies are infamous for, with that dark kind of blue tint to it. But overall, I really like Love to Kill. Is it as good as the Red to Kill? And these three are always in my head when I first started collecting Hong Kong movies. I was always like, I do have a DVD. I'll show it the kind of like little video thing here when you'll see it pop up here. But when they did like when I was going down the Hong Kong list like 10-15 years ago, looking at all these movies, there was Red to Kill, Run and Kill, and Love to Kill. I was like, what the fuck is up with this? And they're all around the same time, and they're all fucking great. They're all great movies if you like this sort of thing, and I love this sort of thing. But I actually think Run to Kill, or Run and Kill is the best of the bunch. And then Red to Kill. Love to Kill sits last, but they're all at least 4 out of 5 for me. And Run and Kill is a 4.5, maybe a 5 out of 5, man. But love the Hong Kong Cat 3 movies. This a crazy wild world, a crazy wild time. That's unfortunately I don't think we'll ever get back. Maybe it's for the best, I don't fucking know, but Love to Kill is definitely worth watching to see some more intense Anthony. He's such a prick to everybody in this fucking movie. He's such an asshole, and he's scary. And Danny Lee's a solid hero in here, kind of a bumbling, kind of moronic character, but I really like this one. It is Love to Kill. Check it out. Alright, here's a theater one. This is going to be rather quick here. This is Companion from 2024. This is by, 2025. We're in 2025 now, guys. This is a new release with Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid. Sophie Thatcher last year was in Heretic. Great movie. And by the way, guys, I don't know if there's 2 pronunciations of Heretic, but I always was under the impression, and I mispronounce everything, that it's Heretic. I know people are saying they're saying weird shit. I don't know if that's like a different thing. They say it in like Canada or the UK as a different way, but I've heard a lot of mispronunciations of Heretic. Correct me if I'm wrong, if there's more than one way to skin a cat in that kind of way. But we're talking about Companion here with Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. Sophie Thatcher, good performance in here. So I don't know, the trailer and the poster kind of spoil a bit, but I kind of half paid attention to the trailers, and I got it spoiled by, I was listening to a podcast with the director right the day before I saw it, and it was spoiled. And I was like, fuck, I wish I didn't know that, which is very unfortunate. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the movie without saying a goddamn thing about it. It's a fun, well-acted movie that's really enjoyable, has bits of violence, it's well lit, it's professionally done well. It makes statements about, toxic masculinity, incel kind of bullshit culture that a lot of people, live in and thrive at and stuff like that. It has similarities to a movie that came out last year, and it has a lot of similarities to other movies throughout history that have kind of tackled this subject and done well. This movie does it pretty well. It's actually kind of goes into a little bit more depth than one would think, and I think that was impressive. I think the music needle drops are well done. Like I said, I don't know how to talk about this without spoiling much about it. Special effects are good. But it's just a group of people go to this billionaire's kind of house. It's isolated, and a couple things are done. There's a murder that takes place, and there's a couple reveals that are really fun and crazy. Overall, I recommend going to check it out. I think you guys will have a lot of fun with it. Now we're going to get into spoiler territories here. So through the trailer and through just the kind of poster, you can kind of realize that Sophie Thatcher, Iris's character, is a robot, a sex robot, in words, like a companion robot, which is basically made for, sex and just hanging out and things like that. So our main character, Jack Quaid, at first we're going to this party and she seems nervous and whatnot. And it's even more clever when you look back on it and realize that she was a robot when you kind of like rethink about it. You're like, oh, wake up, stuff like that. Why is he like yelling or being very blunt or short and things like that? But so they get here, and we kind of Sophie Thatcher's character is kind of almost sexually assaulted by somebody, and she defends herself and kills this guy, and that's when we realize that she is some sort of sex robot, and we start to have more and more things discussed about it, more reveals throughout the entire movie. And we realize that not everyone is as they seem, and it kind of boils down to a lot of the other characters as well. There's a lot of really funny kind of things that happen in here, as they'll show flashback of the way things were or thought to be. And then they'll show them again as the way they actually are, or the way that they are just redone. I think that kind of comedy is really funny. It's that repetitive nature comedy, or just basically setting something up the way it is, but here's how it actually was. And that's also funny to me. I think that all the performances are really strong in here. I think that the stuff that they're saying about AI and is interesting. It's been interesting for a long time. There's a lot of movies that bring that up, the Terminator, the Matrix, anything with technology. And we can even go back to the 80s, where they have like stuff like RoboCop or Robotrix or Mecha-Droid. There's so many movies with robots or androids or AI creations running amok. Evolver. What's the one from 1980, 81 with the house? It's a ripoff of Demon Seed, if I'm not mistaken. So there's so many of these things, right? Where we have a million of these AI kind of movie things going on, and as AI becomes more prevalent in our lives and technology kind of overtakes everything, it's going to be more prevalent here. Black Eyed Susan from 2024 is kind of almost the same story, except done on a really low budget, gritty, nasty, mean-spirited way. Well, this has a lot of fun to it, but there is a lot of nuance in Companion as well that I noticed that I thought was really well done. It's just like these movies don't paint humanity in a great light, and it's kind of strange. And even something like Age of Ultron. We had Ultron gets on the internet for 10 seconds and realizes that the human race has to go. And that's just kind of funny in a really dark way. But Companion I think is really well done, really fun. And I didn't spoil everything completely, but there's a lot of fun to be had with Companion. I recommend checking it out. All right, we're going to hop into those 1982 movies.
I know I'm human. If you were all these things, then you just attack me right now. So some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to. But it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You son of a bitch, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why? Why?
For a girl like you to come into my life, I've been waiting for a girl like you, who loves and will survive. I've been waiting for someone new to make me feel alive. Yeah, waiting for a girl like you to come into my life.
You bitch! You called me a bitch!
insensitive bastard.
Open season!
How do we know she is alive?
Say, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to. Please stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop
All right, we're going to hop into the first one here, and this is Deadly Eyes. This is a Canadian Hong Kong co-production. Golden Harvest had some money in this thing. It's directed by Robert Clouse, who did a bunch of the Bruce Lee movies, Game of Death, Enter the Dragon. So you actually see footage of one of those movies in the theater here. So Deadly Eyes is actually based on one of the books, you know, in the 70s. I think more so the 80s. They had a lot of these kind of crazy animals attacks books. Slugs was also based on one of these books. So Deadly Eyes. This movie is pretty fucking ridiculous. It's an animals run wild movie. In the very beginning, we have this, I guess would be equivalent to like an FDA agent, where all this corn has been sitting at this kind of this location, and it's really nasty. It's shitty corn. It's infested with rats and everything, and has a bunch of steroids, all sorts of stuff that you're not supposed to eat. And instead of letting them send it to starving children, as the guy claims it's going to, they burn it. And what happens with burning this was the nesting place for all these giant mutated rats, aka dogs in rat costumes. So they run amok and they get into the city, and pretty soon they're attacking a lot of people. A lot of them end up in the subway station under the ground. This movie is kind of infamous for, at one point, a baby is killed, which is really dark and crazy. And it turns into kind of your Jaws story. They're opening a new subway. The mayor, this is the climax of the movie, mayor's like, we can't close it. We can't close it. I don't care if there's rats in here. We gotta open up this brand new subway that we spent millions for. And you guys know what the fuck is gonna happen here. Scatman Crothers is in it. Gotta love Scatman Crothers, this poor guy. And he's so good in this one scene. It's 100% like every old guy I've ever worked with in my entire life. I think we've actually had this conversation. I've had that conversation with the old guy, and I become that old guy too. And he was like, man, the coworker's like, I seen a rat this big in here. A rat, it was this big. And Scatman Crothers literally does like, it was this big. And you're like, it's so dead on. Like, I don't know why it is with the male, especially the older you get, you're obsessed with size on everything. You're just like, oh, that thing's huge, man. That's a big thing. So was that joke in Mad TV? Was that SNL Mad TV? I think it was Tiny Elvis. Like, man, that thing's huge. Like, it's just such a stupid fucking thing that guys do. Like, talk about the giant rat. But Scatman Crothers is in here, and he doesn't really have good luck with these kind of horror films, and he doesn't have much luck here either. Also has a couple, of course, of class of 1984 alumni. Lisa Langlois, I think that's her name. She's the punk rocking badass killer, one of the villains in class of 84. Great in that. She's in here. She's obsessed with her teacher, who's played by Sam. What the fuck is his name? I can't think of it. But that guy's in Deadly Games from 1982. So a bunch of 1982 alumni here. And Sam Brooks, something like Sam Brooks. I think it's Sam Brooks. Well, he's in Deadly Games. He's the kind of main character. He's a professor. He's trying to stop the killer rats as well. We also have one of the people, the main female interest in here, the older ladies from Still of the Night. Like I said, we also have another 1984 alumni, the guy who climbs the flagpole. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. He's also in here as a main character. But it's fun in the aspect that the rats attack a theater a la Blob 50s and 80s version. They have a giant attack where they kill all the people on the subway. It's a killer animal movies, and it's not from the 70s. It's kind of the last one of the heydays. You know, we have Alligator 1980. We have a couple killer animal movies here and there, but it's starting to die down a bit. Deadly Eyes is still fun, exploitation, trashy little movie. It's hilarious because the dogs are just they're dogs in rat suits, which I fucking love. But overall, Deadly Eyes is a super fun 1982, horror film, Canadian Hong Kong co-production. As far as the special features, we got the Screen Factory DVD Blu-ray set here. New interviews with actors Lisa Langolis, Lily Donaldson, and Joseph Kelly. Writer Charles Iggy, art director Nikki Dalton, special effects artist Alan Apon and Alec Guinness. And yeah, this is a fun movie. Sam Groom is the actor's name. I'm sorry about that, but it's based on a novel, Rats, by James Herbert. Yeah, there we go. So this is a fun movie. Recommended if you like animals attacks movies or killer rat movies. I think it's one of the better killer rat movies. I mean, I don't think it's as good as the original Willard. I think Willard's kind of got a beat. I think Willard's a really fun movie, but Willard's more in line with like Stanley or something like that, where, you know, it's like, it's it's not your all-out killer rat movie. Like Willard and Ben are a little bit different because there's like a human connection with the animal. So I think it's in the top echelon of killer rat movies. So yeah, if you love killer rat movies, you gotta see Deadly Eyes. Okay, next up from 1982, we're getting into the sensual world of the Black Emanuelle box set again, and I'll show you in the thing. I'm not pulling all this out right now, but we're going to get into 1982's Bruno Mattei's film Violence in a Woman's Prison. Yeah, this time Black Emanuelle is going undercover in prison. That's right. I think I've covered this movie on the station before, or the show, or whatever the hell this damn thing is. And you know, Emanuelle, she's been around the world. She's been in America. She's been in the cannibal jungle world. So Emanuelle, Laura Gemser, goes everywhere. Why not go to prison as a reporter to try to figure out what the hell is going on? I think I covered Concrete Jungle last week. We're getting to these women in prison 1982 flicks. So this one is incredibly sleazy, as you would expect from a Bruno Mattei 1982 prison flick. It has some familiar faces in here as Gabriel Tinti, who is married to Laura Gemser, good character actor, died unfortunately fairly young. He's in a million of these movies. And then we also have Lorraine Dessel from Cannibal Ferox and House on the Edge of the Park, good actress, a bunch of these movies. She plays the warden, and you know, she's kind of using the guys to, she forces prisoners to have sex with her. She's violent, she's corrupt. Her head guard is Franca Stoppi, who is perfect for that fucking role. If anybody's ever seen Beyond the Darkness, where she plays this kind of maid who is just insane as fuck. But so you're like, oh, this is a nice little cast here. Within the first 30 minutes of Violence in a Women's Prison, they don't put any stops to this thing. They go all out. I mean, as far as every trope you could think of in a women's prison movie, it's fucking there. So there's these lesbian sex acts. The warden's basically, or is it Franca Stoppi's basically forcing these women to have sex, and then she starts beating them to get off, like hitting them, and you're like, wow, this is dark shit, nasty shit. There's, of course, there's a homosexual character in here, a stereotypical, ridiculous guy that is portrayed very hilariously, honestly. And there is, of course, you know, the warden using her power to have prisoners sleep with her. And there is a gross-ass fucking scene where there's a bucket of shit thrown at somebody and there's a fight over it. And the first 30 minutes of this, I was like, they're going all out on absolutely everything. It does slow down a little bit. Of course, they're going to start pushing out Laura Gemser. She's going to have to get out of here with some help from her friends. It's not gonna go that easy. A bunch of people are going to die, including the tragic old prisoner lady who's a stereotypical character in here. Who's like, I've been here 100 years and I don't say anything to anybody. I have a pet cockroach and I keep it in a little fucking cage, and it breaks her heart when the it's actually sad that this movie somehow manages to get you to care about a cockroach, but it is. Violence in a Women's Prison is solid. Bruno Mattei has a nice little go in the 80s. In 1980, of course, he had Hell of the Living Dead. 81, he had The Other Hell and Caligula Messalina, and then this year he has Nero, and you know, Violence in a Women's Prison. Next year he has Women's Prison Massacre. So Bruno Mattei is the guy that never stops when it comes to Italian exploitation genre and horror films. So yeah, Violence in a Women's Prison look good. I think it's an upgrade from their old release. It's in the nice deluxe edition here. This Emanuelle set's got some use out of it. There's another one in here from 82, which I've already covered back in the day, called Emanuelle and the Queen of the Desert. It's not really a Emanuelle movie, and I don't really think I'm going to rewatch it, because if I remember correctly, it's rather dull and not much happens. Has a decent cast, but it's just kind of a bland, boring movie, especially when it has Laura Gemser in it. So yeah. Oh, I should mention Laura Gemser. 82 also did that, but she also did everybody's favorite movie, Invaders of the Lost Gold, which is in the running for one of the worst movies of 82. Okay, next up is, I guess it's technically a feature length now, because it's about an hour long. I think it would be then. Then it was considered a short. This is the Toxic Slime Creature from 82. SOV movie, completely no budget, made by a one-time director here. And I don't have very much to say about this movie. This is abysmal. And I know some people might get charm out of it. Some people like these weird movies that are so bad and so brain numbing that it puts them in some weird kind of state, like where they're just zoned out. No, this is not that for me. So what we have here is some sort of toxic slime creatures going around killing people. I'm not even sure how the hell they got made, but a delivery guy shows up to deliver to this warehouse, and they're doing like, I guess, they're what's the fucking thing I'm looking for here, where they have to count all the parts and everything like that. We've all done it at a shitty job, and so basically they all get locked in and whatnot with this slime creature, including the delivery man, and it's a lot of arguing and talking. I'd say about hour of the runtime is about 42 minutes of arguing and talking. I don't think you ever really see the creature. The movie has a complete non-ending. It just fucking ends where like the monster runs into a room and you hear screaming and everybody's like, huh? This is one of the worst movies ever. Like, and I know everything is subjective, but at the same time you're like, what's here? What is going on? Like, is somebody like laughing hysterically at it? And I don't want to be like shitty to the director or whatever. It's probably a bunch of kids making this movie in 1982 on SOV, and it's like, yeah, I appreciate your effort, but it's just bad. That the acting's bad, the characters are bad, the story is bland, it's boring, it never shows you anything. It's just complete void of any entertainment value. It is a toxic slime creature, which I don't know if it is toxic or slime because I never seen the fucking thing. It kind of moves on the ground. Yeah, it's just not worth recommending. I don't have much to say about it. I dare anyone to try to watch it and come back to me and tell me something about the movie. But yeah, I just, one of the worst, if not the worst of 1980. I'm going to say it's the worst movie I've watched for 1982 so far, and that includes Curse of the Cannibal Confederates. So there we go. Okay, for the Patreon pick, we got Forgotten Scares, an in-depth look at Flemish horror cinema. Yeah, kind of a very niche genre within kind of a genre itself. So this is actually on the special features of the Rabid Grannies Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray. So you pop that in, 2017 feature-length documentary here. This is interesting, cool stuff, and it starts off right in kind of the beginning of the Flemish kind of horror scene where they're more looking. A movie came out that they're talking about. It was called Cub, and in the beginning, everybody's like, the first Flemish horror film, and people are all the filmmakers from that area or like historians are like, what the fuck are they talking about? That's bullshit. And so as they advertising for the movie Cub, which came out in like 2015, 14, 15, 16, whatever, Artsploitation put it out on Blu-ray over here. So they're talking about that, like, that's not true, and it has a bunch of directors and producers and writers and historians from this area talking about the movie. I believe it's Belgium. Flemish, it's just fucking complicated and weird, and I don't want to make a mistake, but Belgian horror, I would say, the Flemish horror, I guess we'll leave it at that term. But they start with the early thing here with Daughters of Darkness, 1971, who's a director here, is a really excellent fucking movie, right? Just a masterpiece. Blue Underground put a 4K out. Just one of the ones, John Carlin in here, who I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Racing with the Moon. He's in here. It's just a super atmospheric vampire film, one of the best of all time in terms of visual lesbian vampire story. One of the first like that. John Roland was doing that stuff too, but this one's just an exceptional movie. They talk about that. They talk about its release in the States, how it did really well, and how it had trouble in its own state because the copyrights and everything. They talk about Mrparka, which is the director's other film starring Orson Welles, and they edited poorly. And then we start to kind of jump, and it's funny watching it because we start in the 71, 73, and then there's a jump in big years, and like, holy shit, man, there's like sometimes where there's like 7, 8 years for no like horror films made there. Then we even get to the Pencil Murders from 1982, which is a weird giallo movie that I watched for 82. It's fun, it's alright, and we keep going. And jumping around, we have the disgusting Lucker, the necrophile movie, which if anybody's ever seen that, very disgusting film, talking about the release of it and how it got made, and it has interviews with directors and producers and all these people, again, that are big part-time, like big involved with this. And we even get to the 1985 movie, The Aftermath, which is a crazy post-apocalyptic movie that dives into nasty subjects, including necrophilia and all sorts of things like that. And it's interesting seeing this director's career go out through the years and make all these sequels to The Aftermath, low-budget, weird movies and stuff like that. But they just talk a lot about this, and they talk about the deal that Troma had with a lot of Flemish filmmakers, and they talk about Rabid Grannies and Maniac Nurses Find Ecstasy, and it's an interesting documentary. And there's a couple that I need to watch. Alias popped up, this movie called Alias from 2002, and I was familiar with, of course, the old films like Daughters Daughter of Darkness and Mrparka and the Pencil Murders and stuff like that, and Lucker. I had seen a lot, surprisingly, Aftermath, but when it came to the early 2000s, that's when I was like, holy shit, I don't know this movie. And it was Alias, and it's like more of a thriller, but it sounded fantastic. So it opened my eyes to a couple, maybe possibly hidden gems that I need to get to and watch. And it's interesting just seeing film cinema from around the world, especially when you get hyper focused on such a small little area and their contributions to the horror cinema. That's why I kind of like doing these years, because I'm diving deep in there, and there's so many weird films, and there's obviously a lot of the big heavy hitters like United States and Italy, and Spain, but they start to dwindle down as some years go by, and they almost completely disappear, and then like places like Japan come in and do a lot more movies. But yeah, as far as Forgotten Scares is concerned, it was an entertaining watch, an interesting watch, educational watch, but I would recommend it. Check it out. Let's get in these questions, comments, and concerns. This comment smells of death. While I agree with you on the remake of Satan's Slave having a more effective story than the original, one thing I do like about the original more is that it's from the pre-digital era when film industries around the world were much more unique and idiosyncratic. Modern filmmaking, on a technical level at least, has become much more why can I not say homogized right today? Yeah, well, geez. Obviously, the stories being told are still specific to the country where the film comes from, but modern Indonesian film looks and sounds much the same as the film from any part of the world. Whereas in the pre-digital era, film industries developed in their own unique ways around the world. Old Indonesian film had a look and vibe that is completely its own and couldn't be mistaken for film from anywhere else. Sure, modern filmmaking techniques probably make films from around the world easier for viewers to get into, but I think we've lost some of the charm that older films had. By the way, if you're turning into Bill from Code Red, like you say, does that mean we can look forward to you dressing like a banana and going on paranoid rants about other YouTubers? Oh, I'd love to do that. Let me go, Bill. I'll do Bill from Code Red going after Slipcover Steve. We can make this a whole goddamn fucking crazy ass thing here. But so like I do agree with you there. Yeah, like I love the look more of Satan's Slave, the old one, and the Rapi films had their own unique look from Indonesia, and they all had their style. And especially this week I talked about Love to Kill, the Hong Kong film with Anthony Wong and Danny Lee, and that has Hong Kong at that time had its own unique look. And I would agree that you could pop in a movie from back in the day and say first frame without any actors or any visuals, you could say, or I mean like any like distinguishing like buildings, you could be like that's Hong Kong, that's Indonesia, that's Japan, that's Canada. You could just do that. Now, no fucking way. Movie Junkie Reviews 84. It was announced a while ago Alice would be remade by Dante Tomaselli, the original's relative, but no news in a long time. But he's made some horror movies as well. Yeah, I mentioned Horror and Satan's Playground. He did another third one that I can't think of off the top of my head. That is Desecration, which is his most popular, I think. Maybe. But yeah, Nick Will from Belgium. I've always wondered about Alice. Sweet Alice 4K is the best excuse to pick up finally. I did order 88's release of Eyeball, which I'm betting is going to be as good as you promised. It's ridiculously fun. And when has the movie Mrparka ever steered anyone wrong about the quality of a film? All the fucking time. Pigs will fly before that happens. Oink oink. Not true. Are you excited about the Final Destination 6, or are you merely meh? I'd like to see it, if only for one of Tony Todd's last performances. I don't have much of an opinion, you know. I'm not a huge franchise guy where I watch tons of franchise movies all the time. There's some that I'm connected to. I think I've seen the first 3 Final Destinations, never even seen 4 or 5. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm not biting at the teeth for it. And I'm not hating on it. I'll go see it eventually. I'll have to watch the other ones though too. Do you have to understand a movie in order to enjoy it? I've watched Robert Eggers' Lighthouse many times and see something different in it after every viewing. I don't think necessarily you do. I don't. Maybe if it's visual or something like that, but I think there has to be some sort of grasp where you can kind of grasp something that's happening on there. So I think somewhat. You have to understand it a little bit. 3, is shock treatment truly equal to or better than the Rocky Horror Picture Show? That's all subjective. As far as they say on the tagline, I love shock treatment. Here's a good thing about musicals. I think that if you haven't got shock treatment yet, or Rocky Horror, you haven't seen it, pop in the soundtrack. Listen to the soundtrack a little bit. Dance around the house a little bit while you're cleaning, and then when the movie comes, you'll know the songs. Shock treatment. I think shock treatment will play a lot better for you for the first time watch. I do enjoy your movie Chingwas with Troy Nathaniel, and Eugenio. I truly hope you'll get to join them on commentary someday. I've never had Eugenio on my show. I would love to. But he's not been on the show. Thank care till next week, God willing. There's not any likely way I'll ever be on a commentary. I leave that to the experts. Manuel Luna, I just came across your channel. Great content. I really enjoy your reviews. Thank you. Martin VP gives me a thumbs up. Thank you. Collectitus, completely agree on the seamless branching Blu-ray. Had that for the very beginning, so Scream Factory is just lazy. When they released TCM Next Generation, they had the director's cut in DVD quality. Yeah, come on. I hate that. Ilk Vomit 88, whatever happened to you and Jeremy tackling the Universal horror films the way you guys did Hammer? That was teased and announced right after the Hammer Time series ended, and I haven't been a peep about it since. Well, we did cover like 3 or 4 of them. We got up to, we watched Spanish Dracula. Maybe I'll try to convince them to continue to do it. It's a lot of Universal movies. We had a lot of the thrillers listed as well, so maybe we'll continue to do it. Eddie Daniels, Alice Sweet Alice is a well-made slasher giallo. Thanks for reminding me that it was released on 4K. Anytime. Way Up Dude gives me a thumbs up, all sorts of symbols. Thank you. Necropsy 1. Let's go. Okay. Gray Nunez gives me a heart. Thank you. Ken Coakley. This is a long one here. I bought Alice Sweet Alice on Blu-ray from Arrow a few years ago. I was aware of the film around 1979 or so. At the time, I had a super heavy crush on Brooke Shields. I had it all planned out. I was going to be in a heavy metal band and marry Brooke Shields. I thought since Valerie Bertonelli, who was a huge TV star, married Eddie Van Halen, the odds were in my favor. Then I got wrapped up in my music that I forgot all about her. I started liking her when I saw her family comedy with George Burns called Just You and Me, Kid. She was also in a great movie with Eric Roberts in his first film, The King of the Gypsies. She played his younger sister along with Susan Sarandon as the mother. It was her second time playing Brooke Shields' mother, as she played mother in Pretty Baby. Judd Hirsch played the abusive father, and Sterling Hayden played the grandfather. Roberts was unrecognizable in this film, as he had later had a near-fatal car accident and had reconstructive surgery. Back to Alice Sweet Alice, the title character got on my nerves. She couldn't do the right thing even when the morbidly obese pedophile attacked her. Instead of being temporarily hero and sending the brownie hound straight to hell, she hurt the cat. I yelled at the TV, little shit. You can't end a pedophile's reign of terror. The scene that really bothered me was when she unloaded the cockroaches on Chester, the child molester. A couple of the other cast members were people I noticed. Tom Sigarelli, who played Detective Brennan, played a priest in 1988 film Dominic and Eugene, starring Ray Liotta, Tom Hulce, and Jamie Lee Curtis. He was a 1973 film called Bang the Drum Slowly, starring Robert De Niro as a dying baseball catcher, and Michael Moriarty as his best friend, who is the team's ace in rotation. That movie actually just got released on Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome. Antonio Roca, who played the funeral director, was a professional wrestler who was also best friends with legendary conductor Arturo Paganini. I revisited Vigilante a few months ago. I had seen the film many times, twice theatrically. One of those times was screening of the film to bestow William Lustig Award. He had been at the theater before screening of Maniac Cop 2. At the Maniac Cop 2 screening, he signed Maniac Cop 2 posters and signed Vigilante posters at the screening. He made me go to the front of the line because, like him, I was on a cane. The film Vigilante has an Italian atmosphere. Maybe it was the soundtrack. Cast was amazing. I love Woody Schroeder, especially in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. He's the best in that movie. Great. He was just as much of a badass as John Wayne in the movie. Robert Forster was good at juggling, being a law-abiding citizen, and then releasing his fury on the gang. Forster went on to appear in faith-based films. I saw him in one of his last roles as the writer Lee Strobel's father in The Case for Christ, a film based on a best-selling book by Strobel. I was cheering on Fred Williamson when he chased Frank Pesh as the drug dealer. I met him at a show once. He was really cool. We talked about the Bronx Warriors, especially Mark Gregory. Steve James was great as well. He didn't have his trademark mustache like he did in The Exterminator. John Beck, who played the corrupt judge, also appeared in The Monkees. Used to appear on The Monkees, so I had a hard time taking him seriously. Now regarding Saint and Slave. I have the Severn Blu-ray. I ordered it when I first got into rehab. I remember when I got it, I was watching it, and they called the COVID wing. I was watching it what they called the COVID week, which we had to stay in for 2 weeks. The movie got the nurse's attention. The movie did everything right. The ghosts were scary, and the scene with the ghouls chased the kid in the cemetery is worthy of being a universal film. The movie seemed to do for Islam what The Exorcist did for Catholicism. My best friend was born in Indonesia, as was his sister. When you were reviewing The Concrete Jungle, you said you were unfamiliar with Jill St. John. I know a few things about her. She was a Bond girl appearing in Diamonds Are Forever. I know she's married to Robert Wagner. I checked on Wikipedia, and before she married Wagner in 1982, she dated a bunch of men, including Sean Connery and George Lazenby. She liked them James Bonds. So now regard The Witch from Nepal. The film was released in 1986, same year as Better Tomorrow, which is Chow Yun-Fat's breakout film. Yeah, they mentioned that had not been widely released yet, so it wasn't a hit, so they got him before that. He did another fantasy film called Treasure Hunt. The first time I saw it, I thought he was going to be an action star similar to Hard Boiled or later. Smoking Aces. A friend of mine was going to take other friends to see Treasure Hunt at a theater in Cambridge, Massachusetts, because he wanted to show them a Chow Yun-Fat film. They knew nothing about Chow Yun-Fat because it was 1993 and no Hong Kong stars did any American films yet. My friend told me that he was excited to show them grade A action. Then the movie began and he was flying with his leading lady. Then flowers started growing in his hair, so they walked out disappointed. On a somber note, I read that Moreauville Mall, made famous by George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, has been purchased by Walmart. I feel so heartbroken. I fucking hate it. I've been there, luckily, once. Second favorite movie of all time, Dawn of the Dead. And it only is in this hellscape that we call the United States. That fucking Walmart buys it, right? That sucks balls. Yeah, man. Yeah, let's get out of here. Alright, guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.